One bullet, one wrong turn, one man in the wrong place at the wrong time. And within 37 days, 4 empires collapsed, 20 million people were dead, and the entire map of the world was redrawn forever. But here's what your history teacher never told you. Nobody actually wanted this war. Not the Kaiser, not the Tsar, not even the generals sharpening their swords across Europe. What happened in the summer of 1914 wasn't a calculated strike or a master plan for conquest. It was a catastrophic chain of accidents, miscommunications, and political panic. A powder keg that exploded because nobody had the courage to drop the match. This is the story of how Europe stumbled, sleepwalked, and accidentally started the deadliest conflict the world had ever seen. Stay with me, because the truth is far more terrifying than the war itself. To understand June 28, 1914, you have to understand the world that existed before it. Europe in 1914 was sitting on decades of tension, a continent of rival empires drowning in pride, paranoia, and secret alliances. Germany was flexing its industrial muscle and terrifying Britain. Austria-Hungary was desperately clinging to an empire already cracking from the inside. Russia was playing protector to every Slavic nation on the continent, and France was still burning with humiliation from losing the Franco-Prussian War in 1871. These powers had spent years building military alliances, not for war, but as insurance against war, a system of mutual deterrence. Touch one nation, and you face them all. It sounded smart on paper. It was a catastrophe waiting to happen. And the fuse? It was burning in the Balkans, a region so volatile, so tangled with ethnic rivalries and imperial ambition, that Otto von Bismarck himself had warned, if there is ever another war in Europe, it will come out of some damn silly thing in the Balkans. He was right. June 28, 1914, Sarajevo, Bosnia. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was making an official visit to the city. His motorcade moved through the streets, flags waving, crowds cheering. What he didn't know was that 6 assassins were already positioned along his route, members of a Serbian nationalist group called the Black Hand, armed with bombs and pistols, burning with a singular obsession, driving Austria-Hungary out of the Balkans. The first attempt failed. A bomb thrown at the Archduke's car bounced off and exploded under the vehicle behind him. Franz Ferdinand survived. The motorcade sped to safety. Most people would have gone home. Franz Ferdinand insisted on visiting the injured soldiers at the hospital. His driver, given a new route, made a wrong turn. And there, standing at the corner of Franz Josef Street, was Gavrilo Princip, a 19-year-old boy, already convinced the mission had failed. Grabbing a sandwich, he looked up. The Archduke's car was right in front of him, stalled, reversing, just meters away. Princip raised his pistol and fired twice. Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie were dead within the hour. One wrong turn, and the world would never be the same. Here is where it gets terrifying, because what followed wasn't inevitable. There were a dozen moments, where cooler heads could have prevailed. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia directly, but they didn't move immediately. They spent weeks debating, scheming, waiting for the right moment to crush Serbian nationalism once and for all. They sent Serbia an ultimatum so deliberately humiliating, designed to be rejected, that even Kaiser Wilhelm of Germany called it the most extreme diplomatic document he had ever read. Serbia accepted nearly every condition. Austria-Hungary declared war anyway. Now the alliance system, that so-called insurance policy, kicked in like a machine with no off switch. Russia began mobilizing to defend Serbia. Germany demanded Russia stand down. Russia refused. Germany declared war on Russia. France, allied to Russia, began mobilizing. Germany declared war on France. And to reach France quickly, Germany invaded neutral Belgium, triggering Britain's treaty obligations. Within 37 days of 2 gunshots in Sarajevo, 8 major nations were at war. Leaders across Europe sent telegrams desperately trying to stop what they had set in motion. Kaiser Wilhelm, who had given Austria-Hungary his full backing, suddenly panicked and tried to redirect German forces away from Belgium. His generals told him it was impossible. The war machine was already moving. Tsar Nicholas II and Kaiser Wilhelm, cousins who exchanged personal telegrams signed Nicky and Willie, begged each other to pull back. Neither could, because the war was no longer in the hands of kings. It was in the hands of generals, timetables, and mobilization schedules written years before, plans that could not be paused, could not be reversed, and could not account for the human cost of what they were about to unleash. When British soldiers marched to war in August 1914, crowds cheered in the streets. Politicians promised it would be over by Christmas. Generals spoke of glory and swift victory. Instead, they got 4 years of industrial slaughter. The trenches of the Western Front, mustard gas drifting across no man's land. The Battle of the Somme, 57,000 British casualties on the first day alone. Verdun, a 10-month bloodbath that consumed 700,000 men and moved the front line less than 10 miles. By the time the guns finally fell silent on November 11, 1918, 20 million people were dead. Another 21 million wounded. Four empires, the Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, Russian, and German, had completely ceased to exist. And the peace treaty that followed? So brutal, so humiliating to Germany, that it planted the seeds for an even deadlier war just 20 years later. One wrong turn. One assassin eating a sandwich at the right corner at the wrong moment. And the entire 20th century was defined by the aftermath. The most terrifying lesson of World War I is not about weapons or strategy, or even the men who died. It's about how quickly ordinary decisions, made by scared, proud, and stubborn leaders, can spiral beyond all control. How a system built to prevent war can become the very engine that starts one. The alliances didn't protect Europe. They made destruction automatic. And by the time anyone realized what was happening, the machine was already running. That is the story of how Europe accidentally started World War I, not with a grand plan, but with a wrong turn, a missed sandwich, and 37 days of men too proud to say stop. If this video gave you something to think about, hit that like button, subscribe to Conflict Vault, and drop in the comments. Could World War I have been stopped? I'll see you in the next one.